Number 10, a phone number? Yep, that's right. Getting a hold of a demon is even easier. Not only can you call them forth with white chalk circles and the blood of a virgin, you can also just use your cell phone, though the consequences may be deadly. If you are deciding to change your number, choose anything but 0888888888. This number has a history of dead bodies behind it and you don't want to be next. The first person to have this number was Mobitel CEO Vladimir Grashnov, who died of cancer at age 48 in 2001. Now, we all know cancer to be one of the worst diseases on the planet, and worse yet, it can affect just anyone. So you may be thinking, though sad, his death is not unheard of. But then the number was passed on to a Bulgarian mob boss who was assassinated in 2003. Okay, he had it coming. But then how do we explain the sudden violent death of the number's next owner, Konstantin Dishlev, who was shot outside of a restaurant in 2005? Since then, the number has been suspended after the amount of bodies that followed it couldn't be ignored. Many believe that this number carried with it a demonic presence, condemning all its owners to death. Ooh, we don't know. Number 9, the dark mirror. Mirror, mirror on the wall, be you cursed or not at all. Mirrors, although a resource for vanity, carry a lot of lore alongside them. From vampires to seers and doorways to parallel universes, mirrors aren't always what they appear to be. The dark mirror is a real object that looks like it came straight out of Harry Potter's Borgin and Burkes. It was purchased by its first owner at the Columbus Psychic Fair, so no wonder. Intended to be used as a scrying mirror, so like a crystal ball. The owner reported nothing but disturbing images and terrible visions. Now it sits in a traveling museum where even visitors report seeing horrid images such as their own corpse or those of loved ones not yet dead. Not only does it look terrifying, but whatever left this object behind has something dark planned, and it should only take one guess as to what it was. A demon. Number 8. The Annabelle doll. Duh. Of course this doll was left behind by a demon. It was possessed by one, after all. Thanks to the movie series, this doll has become one of the reasons people have an aversion to them in the first place. I know I do. I remember American Girl dolls, My friend was obsessed with them and I couldn't get over their dark, beady little eyes, Unlike the movies, Annabelle was actually a vintage Raggedy Ann doll that a woman named Donna received as a gift from her mom. That's nice. But the strange thing was, it had a tendency to move around the apartment. One minute it would be sitting on the bed, the next it would be on a couch or have its legs crossed. She suddenly started finding notes reading help in the apartment and came home one night to see the doll covered in a mysterious red substance, probably blood. We don't know. They contacted a medium who said the doll was simply haunted by a girl who passed away in the building. The doll allegedly killed their friend Lou when he got up to investigate noises after he voiced concerns about the doll. So that's when the Warrens got involved. The Warrens detected a sinister presence, a demonic being, a demonic one, straight from hell. And after a botched exorcism, the Warrens decided to keep it secure in a glass box at their Connecticut museum. That's one bit I never understood about that part. Why was their reaction after the exorcism failed to keep it and go, nah, we'll just keep it in a glass box so its beady little doll eyes will stare at the guests walking past. Anyways. Moving on. Number 7, superhuman strength. Many people who claim to have been possessed by demons claim they were left with a kind of supernatural strength. Ivy League educated, board certified psychiatrist Dr. Richard Gallagher witnessed this firsthand. Somehow this proud man of science became the church's go-to guy whenever there was an exorcism. Whenever someone tries to convince the church that they're possessed by a demon or know someone who is, they're sent to Gallagher for a mental evaluation. But in this interview with CNN, Richard never expected to see some of the things he did. But one of the most unexplainable things was the strength of one of his own patients. Gallagher says, and I quote from the interview, quote, "There was one woman who was 90 pounds soaking wet. She threw a Lutheran deacon who was about 200 pounds across the room. That's not psychiatry. That's beyond psychiatry," unquote. The doctor is now a firm believer in the affliction and has even more stories to tell, but this was one moment that stuck with him forever. Number 6, overturned crucifixes. One of the more common signs of a demon having visited are overturned crucifixes. Imagine seeing a picture of your ex while visiting your family, or maybe they're famous and their pictures are everywhere. You'd probably want to put that picture frame face down so you'd never have to see it again. This demons can relate to, especially when you're a fallen angel who got kicked out of heaven. Seeing a sign of your old dad would probably piss you off, especially considering how famous God is and all. Many followers of Catholicism hang crucifixes around the house to ward off demons, but if one has chosen to visit, you may find one, if not all of them, flipped upside down to honor the guy below, so watch out out for that. Number 5, sulfur. Have you ever smelled rotten eggs out of nowhere? Well, I'm here to tell you that demons fart too. Yep. They're just like us. Demonic spirits tend to leave behind the scent of sulfur because, you know, they're from the burning pits of hell and it smells like rotten eggs down there. You remember that scene from Shrek where Donkey thinks Shrek let one rip? Yeah. Brimstone is the biblical word for sulfur. So if you suddenly pick up that scent, do these 3 things. 1, check to see if someone is peeling some hard-boiled eggs. 2, ask your friend or whoever is beside you if they let one rip. 3, if the answers to 1 and 2 are no, then get to the church ASAP Rocky. Regarding number 2, make sure you surround yourself with the kinds of friends you know you could get a straight answer from about that. You know, no one needs that kind of doubt when demons are at play. Number 4, unexplained bites and scratch marks. Ever woken up with a scratch you couldn't explain or a bruise you didn't know you got? Well, I'm sorry to say that unless you sleep like this, then you probably were visited by a demonic presence, or at least a ghost. In an attempt to possess or torment you, restless spirits will try to cause you harm if they can't enter your body. So if you do sleep like, then make sure to keep your nails filed so you can distinguish between accident and evil. Number 3, the Antichrist. Many evil people on this earth have been accused of being the Antichrist, from Osama bin Laden to Rasputin and even a couple of popes. But what is the Antichrist? Well, he's the son of Satan. The Antichrist is prophesied to be the complete opposite to Jesus, said to be born of a woman who lies about her virtue. So, in a way, Satan, as the king of demons himself, leaves behind his spawn to wreak havoc on the earth. Also known as the lawless man and son of perdition, Christian lore has evolved this theory into categorizing anyone who fits the bill as an Antichrist. An easy identifier is someone in power who seeks to oppress and destroy the good and the poor. I'm sure a couple names come into mind. Number 2, poltergeists. So, many people know poltergeists to be ghosts on steroids, basically. They're angry, vengeful spirits that just love to mess with your shit, essentially. They are literally able to pinch, bite, break, and attack humans as well as break your TV. But many people don't believe they aren't just ghosts, but something more, like a demon or the psychic energy left by one. They are very similar to succubuses, who are a kind of demon that feed off your energy. So, like Dementors from Harry Potter. Man, that's 2 Harry Potter references in one video. Are we impressed? I think so. Anyway, since demons are drawn to those who are tormented by, let's say, depression, this seems like a pretty likely idea. Some theorize it's a kind of residual demonic possession that a living person is unknowingly controlling. Number 1, night terrors. One of the most terrifying nightmares I ever had in my life involved demons, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was so creepy. It was so real. It clung to me all day until my friend offered to help me cleanse my room, and I was like, no! Now that makes it real. But the creepy part about nightmares is that throughout history, there are a series of patterns that reoccur depicting demons involved with nightmares or night terrors. A great example is the painting The Nightmare by Henry Fuseli, which depicts an ape-like creature sitting on the chest of a sleeping woman. Anyone who's ever experienced a night terror, not to be confused with nightmare, knows how terrifying they are. Your body literally freezes in a state called sleep paralysis, and you essentially dream while you're awake, unable to move. During this state, you could be visited by sleep demons, 1 of 3 to be exact. A documentary called Nightmare reviews the 3 most common demonic images people see while in this state: a man in a hat, a shadow figure, and a cat with red eyes. If that's not a demonic visitation, then I don't know what is.
At number 10, we have the Codex Gigas, said to be one of the most demonic items on the planet. The Codex Gigas is also called the Devil's Bible. It's unknown where the book came from and what it contains. There are sections of the book that are written in an unknown language, and there are entire pages depicting demonic figures that could be the devil. The legend behind this book is that there was a monk who was sentenced to death by his own monastery. He decided to make a bargain with them. He offered to write them a book. This was going to be a glorious work that would encapsulate the entire history of the monastery, every last detail in one novel. The monastery agreed, but only if he could complete the book in a single night. They didn't even give this guy 24 hours. That's pretty harsh. While working tirelessly on this piece, the monk broke. He knew that the task was impossible, so he requested outside help. Spiritual help. Not from his Lord and Savior, but from the Prince of Darkness. He prayed to the devil who appeared before him and aided him to finish this scripture. It said that anyone who tries to decode this book will be cursed and probably die. At number 9, we have the Dybbuk box. Now, the box itself wasn't really left behind by a demon. If you are unfamiliar with this creation, it's an artifact from Judaism. There are several iterations of the story, but I'm going to give you my favorite one. A Holocaust prisoner used dark magic to summon a demon to try and get rid of the Nazi plague. After the Nazis were defeated, they just had a demon hanging around who was making everyone have a bad time, so this man built a Dybbuk box to seal the demon away. After he passed away, the box got passed from person to person. Each person who owned the box reported having terrible dreams. One person even developed an unknown disease that no one has ever seen before. Eventually the box was given to a rabbi who sealed the dark energy back into the box and put it away forever. So I would say it's the haunted box, like the demonic presence itself, that was left behind by the demon. At number 8 we have forks. Wait, what? You mean that thing that all of Western culture uses several times a day to enjoy all the tasty morsels of life? And make sure that your hands don't get dirty? Yeah, those. Forks used to be seen as a tool of the devil. People made the obvious comparison between the devil's pitchfork and table forks. But it was really because food was seen as a holy gift. I mean, that makes sense. Think about how long people have been sacrificing people to gods to increase the amount of wheat they get in a year. That happened for a long time. So if you would not touch the food, it meant that you were fearful of this holy gift. There was actually a princess in the 17th century who would eat with a fork, and she died of a sickness, and everyone said that was God's will because she was the devil. At number 7 we have schizophrenia. I want to start off by saying I am in the camp of science on this one. I don't believe that schizophrenia can be caused by a demon, but some people think this to be the case. Throughout history there have been reports of demonic possession or demonic presence in a person that will cause them to start hearing voices, hallucinate, or even take on a new personality. These are all very similar traits to schizophrenia. Long before we could diagnose such things, people would try to pray away things like pneumonia. Most mental illnesses were seen to be a demon living inside your body. So let's get skeptical for a moment, because you guys come here for the weird stuff. What if mental disease or what demons leave behind you after you have an encounter with them, corrupting your soul, taking over your mind? Again, I am sticking in the camp of science, but maybe mental illness is something caused by demons. At number 6 we have demonic cults. When a crazy satanic cult gets formed, is this just people going crazy and finding an excuse to be crazy? Or is this the bidding of a dark force, pushing people into a certain direction to increase their influence? Some people think that Charles Manson was influenced by a demon or the devil himself. For instance, how was he able to have such a strong influence over these people, to make them follow him without question? He had people murdered at will just by telling people what to do. There's a myth that during his trial he wasn't allowed to speak because prosecutors were worried that he had some inhuman ability to influence people. Perhaps Manson was the puppet of an outside force. At number 5 we have curses. I mean, this one is pretty basic, but I felt like it should be on the list. It seems like everywhere a demon goes, they leave behind some sort of curse or sickness or something. They aren't really in the game of helping people. A demon doesn't come into your home and make sure you pay all your bills on time and meal prep. No, they want to make your life worse. I think it's just in their nature to do that kind of stuff. We have covered some curses left behind by demons on this channel before, things that could make you go insane or make you get terribly sick, but my favorite is the curse of Spider-Man. It's a terrible omen that affects the Broadway play Spider-Man. People have sustained so many injuries rehearsing for this play that the production has been put on hold several times. One time a rope holding an actor 3 stories up snapped and sent them falling into the orchestra pit. Even one of the producers died from a stroke before the play even opened. Some demon out there is like, this can't happen. Even though I'm a demon, a play about Spider-Man is too horrible to go on. At number 4 we have curse words. It only makes sense that we follow curses with curse words. Apparently a lot of horrible things that we spew out of our mouths every day come from demons. Specifically the demon Agarus. If someone summoned him, he would give them a great gift. He would offer you the knowledge of every language in the world. A very useful skill. You could work for the UN and find out if anyone was talking trash about you. But here's the catch, he's a demon. Of course there's a catch. He would only teach you all the curse words of each language. Not the best way to build friendships all over the globe. Something cool about this guy is he would appear in front of you as an old dude riding a crocodile. I would totally get tricked by this. Some old man on a croc rides up to you and he's like, hey, you want to swear in every language? I'd be like, yes dude, what's your Instagram? At number 3 we have familiars. There won't always be a big bad devil who torments you. He might send one of his lackeys, and even they might send one of their lower tier creeps to torment you. Who am I, chopped liver over here? I can't get some top tier tormenting? Familiars can be creations or beasts that come from a more powerful demon and left behind to ruin your life. Some people will experience these things through nightmares, or they could be the creature that you see in the corner of your room while you have sleep paralysis. paralysis. At number 2, we have fears. Ooh, boo, you're scared. From what I understand about possession is that strong-willed people are much harder to take control of. So how do you break someone's will? Well, you have to make them watch the same Disney movie over and over again, and that's why I think kids are secretly demons trying to ruin our lives. Of course, I'm just kidding, but why do kids like watching the same movie on repeat, like back to back? Like, dude, there's so many movies out there. A demon might leave some fears in your soul, slowly breaking you down. Think of it as planting a seed and letting it grow. They'll leave a kernel of something horrible inside your psyche, wait for you to have an emotional breakdown, and then take over your body. And for our number 1 spot, we have markings. Now let's get into the nitty gritty. If you actually encounter a demon, they might try to put their grubby little hands on you, and it never goes well. From working on this channel, I've probably read over 100 reports of different kinds of branding demons have left on people. It could be something as simple as scratches, just small ones, the kinds you wake up with when you're like, what, did that happen? I don't remember scratching myself. To full on bite marks, bruises in the shape of humanoid teeth with very defined canines. The craziest one I read about was from Reddit user Ricora. She said while walking through a haunted house, she felt a burning sensation on her face. Someone turned on the light and everyone could see a bright red handprint on her face like she had just been slapped. Yo, if a demon walked up to me and slapped me, I would pour holy water over my hands and I would Sugar Ray this dude. You'd be screaming no mass by the time I'm done with you.
Number 10, the Screaming Skull. Wherever there is tragedy and violence, demons love to live there, which could be the case for Agnes Hall. This magnificent hall was built in the early 17th century by Sir Henry Griffith and his 3 daughters. The youngest, Anne, was particularly fond of it and developed a very strong attachment to it immediately. She was excited for their life there, but one day she came across robbers who took everything she had and left her severely beaten. But the time she was discovered, it was too late to save her and she fell into a fever. In her final hours, she made her sisters promise to bring her head into the house so that a piece of her would always be there and that she'd be able to see the final product. They didn't do what she asked until each night they heard screams of pain and anguish. Finally, they brought her skull into the house thinking that would help, but strangely when they dug her up, the head was already detached and clean of flesh. They concealed it within the walls and the screams discontinued, but some even say you can still see Anne walking around the grounds. I mean, technically a ghost, but why was her head detached? Why was there no flesh? I'm just saying that's creepy and very demonic to me. So anyways, moving on. Number 9. The Hand Resist Him painting. One of my absolute favorite books is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I love it. It tells the story of a man whose soul is trapped inside of a painting. In a way, that's what we're trying to do every time we take a picture, or in this case, paint one. We want to preserve a moment in time so it never ages. The Hand Resist Him painting by Bill Stoneham tried to do just that, but instead, he released something dark and twisted into the world. The painting is an artistic interpretation of a photo taken of him and one of his neighbors when they were kids. The hands behind the glass represented his unknown family, as Stoneham was adopted. Each time the painting changed hands, someone died, including Godfather actor John Marley. It resurfaced after it was abandoned in an old brewery turned art gallery and was sold to a family on eBay. Not long after that though, their children started screaming, saying that the children in the painting would come into their rooms and fight. The father set up a camera to prove nothing happened so that he could be like, kids, calm down. But then, he saw in the video the boy in the painting move. We all know demons like to attach themselves to pain and sorrow. What if while bringing this piece to life, he also allowed for something else to come through as well? Number 8. The Anguished Man painting. You may have heard and seen the famous The Scream painting. You know that one? But though this one looks similar, it is far more terrifying. Remember that Dorian Gray thing? Well, this is kind of like that, but also more like the Velvet Buzzsaw with Toni Collette and Jake Gyllenhaal. Great movie, by the way, very scary. Well, it looks like the artist basically did just that, minus the immortality. Sean Robinson inherited this painting from his grandmother, who said that the artist had mixed their own blood with the paint. Shortly after it was completed, the artist took his own life, and that is all people seem to know of its origin or the artist. But right there, you've already got some prime ingredients for demonic possession: grief, misery, and death. As soon as the painting arrived in the house, strange things started happening. At night, they heard someone crawling across the floor, crying, banging, and screaming could be heard. And then there's this video that Sean set up to record any strange happenings. His wife and dog are totally creeped out by it, his wife having felt a presence touch her multiple times in the house, and the dog won't go near it. And I think we all know if a dog won't go near someone or something, it's not to be trusted. It's bad news. They got the sense, they know. Number 7, the Letta doll. Last time we talked about Annabelle, but get ready for Letta. Letta has to be one of the creepiest dolls of all time. Like, she looks like where Annabelle doesn't look creepy, Letta does. Letta was found underneath an abandoned house in New South Wales. The doll is said to be over 200 years old and has a head of real human hair. Also, look at this doll. If it doesn't give you the absolute creeps, I don't know what will. You've got like a liver of steel, who knows. Mr. Walton became one of Letta's owners and soon started to notice some pretty strange events. Guests coming over to the house would suddenly feel sick and disturbed when they were around the doll. Walton himself noticed scuffs on the floor leading to Letta as if they'd gotten up and walked around. Some say the spirit of a young boy who drowned is tied to the doll, while others believe it's something far more powerful. Jury is still out as to whether this doll is possessed by one of the bad guys, aka awful demons, or a good guy. Some even kiss Letta for luck. I wouldn't kiss that doll. Just saying. Alright, number 6. Thomas Busby's chair. For many, a local pub can feel like home. And it was no different for Thomas Busby, an infamous killer delighted with his crimes. He was set to hang for his crimes in 1702, and for his last meal he asked that he be served in his favorite pub in Thirsk, England. After he stood up, he said, "May sudden death come to anyone who dares sit in my chair." Now, if you're evil enough in life, chances are you'll come back as a demon. Throwback to Asmodeus. The chair remained in the pub for centuries, locals daring each other to sit in it. But it wasn't until World War II that people noticed that any soldier who sat there wouldn't return from war. I mean, the odds were against them. But from there, a roofer, 2 pilots, a mason, and a cleaning lady all died mysteriously in sudden deaths after they'd sat in the chair, and the death toll kept rising. Eventually the chair was donated to a museum in 1972 and was hung on the wall so it could not claim another soul. Number 5. The Chained Oak. This story is a kind of weird hybrid between Beauty and the Beast and a banshee and a demon, just a lot. The Chained Oak tree is a tree literally wrapped in chains in Alton, Staffordshire, England. Legend goes that the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury was riding past it when he came across an old beggar woman. As the Earl passed by, he shunned her pleas for money, and as a result she cursed him. Or maybe if she was a demon, he fell prey to a plan she had all along. For every branch that fell from the tree, a member of his family would die. No sooner did one of the branches break off during the storm did he lose a loved one. So he chained up the tree to prevent any more from falling. Though the family is long since gone, people say to be wary of approaching in case that same old beggar woman picks you next. Number 4. The Woman from Lem statue. The Woman of Lem statue was discovered in 1878 in Lem, Cyprus. And if there's anything that should have stayed buried, probably this thing. Carved of pure limestone, it dates back to 3500 BC and is believed to represent a fertility goddess. Because she's curvy. She got curves for days. The first rumors of demonic activity surfaced after the first owner, Lord Elfont, experienced all 7 members of his family dying of mysterious diseases within the first 6 years he owned it. The same thing happened to the next 2 owners, Ivor Minucci and Lord Thompson Noel, who died along with their entire families. It wasn't until the 4th owner, Sir Alan Biverbrook, died along with his wife that their sons donated the item to the Royal Scottish Museum in Edinburgh. You can guess what happened next. The chief of the section where the statue dwelled suddenly died, and no one has handled the statue since. It just stays in a little glass box. Wherever this object goes, whoever touches it, death surely follows, and even skeptics can't deny that these deadly consequences have otherworldly hands. Number 3. The Cage. This place is an absolute breeding ground for demonic activity considering its history of witchcraft and brutal deaths. The Cage is one of the most haunted places in Essex, having used to be a prison filled with women considered to be witches. An important one to note was Ursula Kemp. She was a healer, nursemaid, and was said to be able to remove curses from those hexed and provide healing drafts to the sick. She was a good person. But then someone got jealous and they accused her of being a witch along with 14 other women, and they were all hanged with their children left behind. Now a cottage, Vanessa Mitchell, bought the property in 2005 and swears it's not just haunted, may have something darker inhabiting it. Along with the typical doors opening and shutting, technical difficulties, pots and pans flying, Vanessa constantly saw shadow people. It continued to escalate and happened at all hours of the day. The final straw was when she caught the image of a satanic goat-like image on camera. We all know what that means. Number 2. Abandoned homes. If you've ever heard or seen an abandoned house, chances are it's like that for a very demonic reason. If you've been with this channel for a while, then you know the deal. Today, I'm going to be talking about one house that was so badly haunted, it was condemned. Latoya Ammons and her 3 children lived in a home on Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. Large black flies started swarming around the family's screened-in porch, and at night the family would hear footsteps and even saw shadowy figures. This is a sighting that paranormal investigators agree is a sure sign of a demon, not a specter. Ammons even claims that she once saw her 12-year-old daughter levitate above her bed. Clairvoyants soon discovered that the house wasn't just haunted by 1, but 200 demons. Zach Baggins, the executive producer of Ghost Adventurers, ended up buying the house from them and had it destroyed, saying, and I quote, "Something was inside that house that had the ability to do things that I have never seen before. Things that others carrying the highest forms of credibility couldn't explain either. There was something there that was very dark, yet highly intelligent and powerful." Unquote. Number 1. Stull Cemetery. Stull Cemetery in Kansas isn't your typical cemetery, though it looks like it. It has so much activity that many believe that it is in fact a gateway to hell. It is said to be so evil that even the Pope charters his plane around it, not over it. Every year, tourists flock to the cemetery in order to see if the devil will appear on Halloween. They even have to have police to protect it. This is clearly a place that demons created and where they originate from, and curse all those who pass. Even the beloved Ariana Grande had an encounter she will never forget. From disturbing pictures to shadows, Ariana swears the place is haunted by something no one should mess with. Paranormal investigators from Planet Weird checked out Stull Cemetery, and this is their experience.
We're here at Stull Cemetery now, and it's on fire. There's literal fires, patches of them all over the cemetery. It's not a controlled burn. We don't know where it's coming from. There's no bonfire anywhere.
What's most terrifying about the cemetery is not the fact that demons may have left it behind, but that they are still clearly living there.